Alright. Give me a brief... That was not what I wanted to press. That was not what I wanted to press. Alright, let me see. Let's just make sure that there's audio. Because... Okay, wonderful. There is audio. Wonderful. So, I got a community strike because of YouTube. Since the last two videos did not have the audio with them, and so therefore they were marked as spam because fuck YouTube. So, allow me to very briefly open this video, or at least the topic of discussion in this video, by saying I love Rooster Teeth. I am a big fan of Rooster Teeth. Since 2012, I believe, whenever Clouds was released, the Minecraft Clouds Let's Play, I have been watching Rooster Teeth almost religiously. Every podcast that I could listen to, any time that I had, I would listen and I would catch up to the content. I am a big fan of Rooster Teeth. There are some series that I do not watch. I don't watch Red vs. Blue. I don't watch Ruby. They're not over yet, and I want to be able to do a sort of binge at that point in time. I don't know when they'll end. I don't know when their lifespan will come to a conclusion, but whenever it does, I would like to binge watch those shows. So I am a big fan of Rooster Teeth, and I have followed them for a long time. They are probably one of a very select few channels that I watched when I was 12 that I still watch just as much of, if not more of, now at 19. Now, I hate making videos like this, and I don't stutter away from making videos like this on whatever it may be, despite my bias towards the topic I'm discussing. I never stop looking for the truth hidden within a lot of things that I enjoy. Oftentimes I ruin things that I enjoy by finding a harsh truth as to how it's made, or as to how it conducts business, that eventually turns me off from the channel. And with Rooster Teeth, it's a little bit different, since this is about 8 years of devotion that I have poured into this company. So it sucks to make this kind of video, because I know that I'm making it on a topic that I very much favor and like and enjoy. However, I do need to take my fandom, or take my support, away from the topic, the central topic at hand when discussing it. And I do need to see the truth within a lot of some of my favorite things. And with Rooster Teeth, it has been a very, very interesting evolution from when I started watching to where they are now, which is to be expected with any business. You are supposed to evolve. You are supposed to adapt. Otherwise, by the rules of business, the nature in business, you are going to die. If you do not evolve and adapt, you are going to die in favor of a company that can do what you do better than how you can do it. It's been a very, very, very noteworthy evolution in Rooster Teeth from where they were then and where they are now. Now, allow me to kind of paint the picture a little bit more vibrantly. When I started watching Rooster Teeth, this channel was little more than a twinkle in my eye. I started it with a person that, while I do keep up with, I keep up with on a very, very rare occasion. Maybe once a year, once every year and a half, still keep up with them. But it started out as a channel that had short vlogs, and that was about that. So the past 7 years of this channel have gone from vlog, 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 Minecraft, wrestling, vlog, more vlogs. Ah, okay, more vlogs. Podcasts. Wait, where's the wrestling? Sports? NFL? Wait, are we back to gaming now? Back to wrestling? The fuck is this? That's the course of my channel. That's been 7 years. Alright, and behind the scenes, we've turned it into a sort of independent project. In that same time span, let's just put this into perspective. At the time the channel started, Achievement Hunter was Jeff, Jack, Michael, Gavin, and Ray. And Ryan was a few weeks away from being involved in the cast full-time as well. Now, it's Jeff, sometimes, Jack, Gavin, Michael, Jeremy, Matt, Trevor, Fiona, Lindsay, and Alfredo, and just a number of different people. It's much bigger, it's much different, and the content is extremely shifted from what it originally was, which, again, is to be expected. However, what I've noticed from Rooster Teeth, not just Achievement Hunter, but from Rooster Teeth in general, is that the same consistent struggles have been just as present now as they were 7 or 8 years ago, if not more present now than they were 7 or 8 years ago. And it's really the most crucial and fundamental problem that Rooster Teeth has that really jeopardizes its ability to keep its head above water, at least in the long-term scheme of things. The fact of the matter is that Rooster Teeth is horrendous at marketing to a demographic other than its already niche and limited audience. While the gaming industry and while the production industry seldom changes, because there's seldom to take away from it that can really shift a landscape. It's not like with professional wrestling, where one new additional style could end up becoming the norm for a lot of wrestlers, and thus becoming a major sort of style wrestled. Strong style in professional wrestling is very prominent in Japan, but the second a strong style wrestler comes to the States and starts becoming extremely popular and wrestles with that style is the second in which you see a lot of other American professional wrestlers learning to wrestle will start learning strong style, and by the time they get to be able to formulate a personality of their own and become possibly popular, they'll also be wrestling strong style, and there will be that evolution and that growth into the United States of Japanese styled strong style wrestling. With gaming, it's very different because there are trends and there are things, as well as within the media, that change but don't shift. Road trip movies were massive in the mid-2000s because they were easy to make. And that was really a trend, because a few years later, found footage movies became extremely easy and cheap to make, as well as extremely popular. And then after that, before that, it was things like serial killer movies that were extremely easy to make, and were extremely popular, and so on and so forth. It's, the reason why Saw got so many sequels. Final Destination got so many got so many sequels. Why The Fast and the Furious is now on movie like 22 or something like that. And it's kind of like that, where there's not ever something that is a big change or creates a big landmark shift in the industry. It doesn't happen very often. It happens, but it doesn't happen once every few years. Professional wrestling constantly changes, and you're constantly evolving and having to figure out how it works now as opposed to 5 years ago. It's not always the same with gaming and with the media. However, when it comes down to it, no matter what change is elicited, Rooster Teeth is not going to benefit from that sort of change because they have a very select niche demographic that they are doing whatever they possibly can to grow. They're not waiting to capitalize on a trend. They're not waiting to capitalize on a landmark shift. They're trying to make things happen artificially. With this recent cut and layoff of the 13% of the Rooster Teeth staff, it came with a lot of blowback, a lot of questioning, and rightfully so. Jeff Ramsey made a statement before the beginning of Off Topic, and I thought he made a very clear, very decisive statement that ended up leaving a few questions still left unanswered, but also answering questions that fans don't tend to get a lot with Rooster Teeth. However, at the end, he managed to kind of put in a sort of note of there have always been people that wanted to see us fail, and so on and so forth, which caught me off guard, because it is not like we made them cut 13% of their staff. It's not like we started ramming down their doors and boycotting their products that caused them to lay off 13% of their staff. So it's and don't get me wrong, they're very aware of criticism. And I have no problem with them stating that there is criticism and so on and so forth. But to state something or make a statement on something like that when discussing a completely unrelated topic makes it seem like you're attributing something within that kind of topic to the problem at hand. It felt less like Jeff talking about the naysayers in general, and more like Jeff trying to attribute something, this perhaps, what's the term? It's not optimistic, pessimistic. This sort of pessimistic naysayer. It's like he's trying to attribute some part of that pessimistic naysayer into the reason for why 13% of the staff were laid off. Even if that wasn't the reason, like, even if that wasn't the intention, that's what it came off like. And it left a very sour note in a lot of people's mouths. Because at the end of the day, there are always going to be naysayers, and there are always going to be people that don't believe. However, there are two different ways to go about either proving them wrong or proving them right. Or, just in general, responding to that. You can continue to do business and continue to succeed in spite of them, or you can continue to do business, but continue to do it in the way that your naysayers are saying is wrong and bad, and eventually give those naysayers a reason to be pessimistic. And Rooster Teeth is horrendous at proving them wrong, because those naysayers do not trust Rooster Teeth. They're former fans, they're former supporters, but they've been wronged by the company. The video player on the Rooster Teeth website cannot play a fucking video to 2019 standards. There have been plenty of business decisions that Rooster Teeth has made that they have never really given a clear, decisive answer as to why they are occurring to the people that are supposed to be indulging in this sort of content or whatever it may be. There have been price changes to memberships that affected in a negative way promises that were prior or that were made prior by the company itself. There are naysayers that do not trust Rooster Teeth any longer. And the problem with Rooster Teeth is that they are not giving them a reason to have faith in the company. These naysayers do not trust Rooster Teeth, and they shouldn't. There's this constant talk about how they're going to change the video player on the Rooster Teeth website. They never change it with anything. There was plenty of talks about the app and about the service on mobile devices or Xboxes or whatever it may be, and there were hints to it, but it didn't happen for everyone. There was a discussion point made, and I'm trying to kind of collect my thoughts because I've got so many different thoughts racing in my head, but there was the discussion made about price changes and the promises to lifelong members that they would not be affected by the change that were apparently broken, and the price change was put in motion for everyone, thus going against the promise that the company made. It's not like Rooster Teeth is giving people a big reason to have faith in them. And it shows because now, at the end of the day, it's less like the audience is a fan, or it's less like the audience is a part of the Rooster Teeth family, and it's more like they are just another consumer. They're being asked to spend $5.99 on a product that really doesn't have much to offer. I mean, let's think about what the Rooster Teeth First membership really gets you in regards to just pretty much simply exclusivity. This exclusivity that RT First gives you for your money. I don't see any sort of thing other than maybe theater mode, or if you like Day 5 or Genlock, wonderful. I don't see anything other than perhaps that is worth the money. I mean, you get podcasts 2 days in advance. What's the big deal with waiting 48 hours? Sure, you can watch it live, but it's probably just as good, if not better, 2 days in advance, at least in my opinion. These shows, these series, the Barbara vlogs, the Bernie vlogs, they're not worth $6. Nobody's going to pay $6 to watch those. Achievement Haunter, we get 8 episodes a season. Wonderful. That's great. Not worth $6. I think it's funny. Not worth $6. I can shell out that money. It's no problem to me, but it's still not worth $6. This RT First membership, you're getting nothing in return. Alright, not to mention the fact that Genlock and Day 5 are not coming back. Alright, they've got these 2 shows in syndication. Nobody's going to want to work with Day 5. Nobody's going to want to work with Genlock. I haven't seen too much of Genlock. Didn't really care for it from what I saw. Really liked Day 5, but it's not something that TV networks are going to work with Rooster Teeth on. Not to mention, at the end of the day, if a TV network were to work with Rooster Teeth on whatever project it may be, especially something like Day 5, they would not give Rooster Teeth creative freedom. They would be hounding down on them to make sure that their investment was worthwhile, and therefore, the product would no longer be something that Rooster Teeth fans would enjoy. But at the end of the day, it's at the this effort to syndicate the show is mostly to get financial backing, but at the same time to open up an entirely new audience to the product at hand. But nobody cares. Nobody wants to watch Day 5. It's worth $6 to me because I love the show. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great premise. I think it's easy to make. But it's not anything worth $6 to Joe Schmo working a 9 to 5 job that doesn't know anything about Rooster Teeth. He's not going to see that series and go, "Yeah, I can dig with it." It's like Rooster Teeth is trying to get to an audience that they just aren't going to get to. Rooster Teeth, nobody cares for a Rooster Teeth product without knowing what Rooster Teeth is. And Rooster Teeth's demographic is so small and minute in the grand scheme of things that it really doesn't matter. Because even if you get 10 new eyes a day, it's not like you have much to offer them. I've always been a fan of the idea, and I said this back in 2014. Rooster Teeth should be doing sort of concepts that are somewhat low budget, but afford the ability to still tell a story. I've always loved the idea of found footage. I think it's extremely cheap and extremely easy to make, but there are so many opportunities to tell a story. Think of the whole original Cloverfield movie, and think about the original direction or the original mindset in that Cloverfield movie for a following or for a sequel in the future. The idea that it could just be another person's perspective of the same exact thing taking place, just from a different angle, with a different story that started to fill in the blanks a little bit more. And then the third movie could fill in the blanks a little bit more with a different story, and so on and so forth. The same sort of thing, the same sort of concept, easy and cheap to make, but the ability to tell a story that Rooster Teeth is just not good at making. Day 5 is a great show, in my mind, but it's not a good story. Walking Dead in Season 7 was better in regards to the story they were trying to tell, as directionless as it was, or I'm sorry, Season 6, as directionless as it was, than Day 5 was. And that's the problem. Rooster Teeth doesn't offer anybody that's not familiar with Rooster Teeth anything. You've got Day 5. Sure, it's in syndication. Let's just say 1,000 people, 100,000 people watch that show every day. You got 100,000 new eyes on the product every fucking day. They go to Rooster Teeth. They subscribe to RT first. What the fuck do you offer that crowd now that they are a subscriber? Who the fuck is Barbara in their eyes? Who the fuck is Bernie? What's Achievement Hunter? What's Funhouse? What's Sugar Pine 7? Cow Chop? None of the audience that would watch Day 5 would give a fuck about the product you're putting forward. But at the same time, you're expecting to bring in this new audience. You need to give them something to latch onto after the fact. Nobody going to watch Day 5 is going to subscribe to RT first to watch theater mode. Ain't gonna fucking happen. It's a confused teenager trying to figure out which shirt matches with the pants. Sad thing is, it's a choice between a pink shirt and a yellow shirt to match with clown pants. They don't match, and it's a fruitless effort. Nobody watching Day 5 is gonna come in and want to watch whatever it may be. Nobody that watches Achievement Hunter and Achievement Hunter only is going to subscribe to the RT first subscription to watch the Bernie vlogs. And people watching Genlock are not going to subscribe to the RT first subscription to watch Achievement Hunter. You've got all of these different pieces of content, all of which that, granted, are interesting concepts. I love the idea of the weird place. It's a sort of this reality, but also not this reality show, this reality, but also this not reality series that is taking place all in an escape room, but at the same time, it's not like it's an outright escape room. It's a group of people, a group of characters, really, not the people, but characters going through an escape room the same way anybody would. But there's this underlying scripted story going through. It seems real, but it's not real. It's like this sort of, is it real? Is it not real? What the fuck is going on? I'm really digging this kind of show and this kind of concept that people would love. It's an interesting concept. But nobody watching The Weird Place is going to then go watch Day 5. Two completely different audiences. Neither of which are you good at advertising to? The reason being, because they're not your audience. Day 5 is for the people that want to watch a sort of post-apocalyptic drama, yet semblance of horror, sort of kind of suspension of disbelief in the current reality. But they want to watch a well-put-together series about a post-apocalyptic kind of horror, kind of drama. And then Genlock is this animated series that I haven't really I'm not the biggest anime fan. and I'm not the best at putting together that kind of story, because I'm not really fucking sure exactly what's going on with that show, at least from what I've watched. But that audience is completely different from the Day 5 audience, which is in itself completely different from the Weird Place audience, which is different from the Murder Room audience, which is different from the goddamn Bernie Vlogs audience, which is different from anybody that listens to the podcasts, which is different from Theater Mode. It's all of these different series put into one. And Rooster Teeth is trying to gain a new audience. Their current foray into merchandise is nothing more than exact proof of that. They're trying to look for something to branch out from what they have. The problem is, they're doing it with absolutely nothing to gain. Because the second they get, let's just say, again, the audience for Day 5, let's just say they get 1 million eyes every fucking day on Day 5, what is that audience going to Rooster Teeth and finding to dig deeper into? What are they going to go to Rooster Teeth and go, oh, let me watch this too? The Day 5 audience, the audience that'll stumble across Day 5, won't give a shit about the concept of the Weird Place, no matter how great of a concept I think it is. Same thing for Genlock, and same thing for Achievement Hunter. Rooster Teeth was built on the gaming community. Rooster Teeth was built on a sort of comedy gaming community. And they thrived in the era in which Let's Plays were the most popular thing around. And I'm glad that they're going into a sort of series and production kind of effort. But it's alienating their old audience, which is no longer trusting them because they feel like afterthoughts now. And it's all in vain because you're not going to get a new audience. You're not reaching a new audience. You've got nothing to offer them. Not to mention, it's completely alienating the audience you already do have, as I said, making the old audience feel like an afterthought. It's alienating the audience you do have whilst getting nothing in return. It's like a prisoner reaching through his jail cells with the keys to the goddamn cell within a fingertip away, but he's not actually reaching for the keys on one side, the closest side of the security guard's security guard's desk to him. He's reaching for the goddamn security guard's walkie-talkie on the opposite side of the desk, nowhere near within reaching distance. Doesn't give a fuck about the keys closest to him, gives a fuck about the walkie-talkie. And he doesn't think twice. He's not smart enough to take the keys, unlock the cell, and go get the talkie the easy way. He's just outright reaching for the talkie, and he's never going to get it, because he does not have a way to get to it. Rooster Teeth is reaching for that walkie-talkie. They're reaching for that audience, but they're not smart enough to use what they currently have afforded to them to make it easier to waltz up to that walkie-talkie, get that audience, and bring them in. You've got one post-apocalyptic horror drama-ish show. You've got one reasonably worthwhile series, anime series, that's not going to see a second season. You've got one sort of complicated escape room kind of series that in itself is somewhat similar to Murder Room, but that is completely different in regards to the audience that would look at it from the Weird Place. You've got a jumbled mess of different series, and you're expecting somebody to come in from one and give an eye to all the others. Truth be told, I may be hungover, so I may be kind of rambling on, but I think you kind of get the point. Rooster Teeth is alienating an audience that they're starting to begin to look at as the naysayers or the enemy, despite the fact that this enemy is just an audience member that feels abandoned, and rightfully so. I don't think Rooster Teeth cares about the audience that it had, the audience that called it home. They're trying to expand well before they actually can. Problem is, they're looking for an audience, and they don't have a way to keep them. They want to get the eyes on the product, but they don't know how to keep their eyes on everything else. It's hurting Rooster Teeth. It's hurting the fans. And now it's like this war between the alienated fans and Rooster Teeth. With Rooster Teeth going, "You're the enemy," and the alienated fans going, "No, we just want to trust you. And we can't. And they can't. And they shouldn't. Because Rooster Teeth has been giving them no reason to trust them. They're breaking promises. They're abandoning the type of content that their already present audience wants to see. And it's hurting them in the long run. This cut of 13% of the staff comes from Rooster Teeth's efforts that at the end of the day are completely fruitless. Day 5 and Genlock, no matter what financial backing or what audience it gets, will never reach the audience Rooster Teeth is hoping for it to. They're horrendous at advertising to any audience other than their already limited one. And when they do manage to get a breakthrough, they can't keep anyone around because they have nothing. They come up with an idea, and the second they have people that see that idea and go, that's worth something, they look around and there's nothing else. There's no other interesting thing to latch onto. So they're just like, alright, well, I'm going to leave. It's going to be what ends up killing Rooster Teeth. If Rooster Teeth dies, and Rooster Teeth's longevity right now looks to be in more jeopardy now than it ever has been before. If Rooster Teeth goes down, it's going to be because of this. They're not self-aware enough to see what works and what doesn't. And it's going to hurt them in the long run. I am hungover, I'll be honest. It wasn't an easy night last night, but the 49ers did win. So, I'm sorry if I'm stammering around, but at the end of the day, the truth is Rooster Teeth is not getting the hint. They're alienating their audience, and they're not getting any new ones, so they're just losing people. They're not giving straightforward answers. Whenever they make a statement on something, it feels as though they're shifting blame a little bit. They're not being transparent. They're breaking promises. They're being hypocritical, talking about how bad crunches are, but then going ahead and crunching themselves. And they're expending all of this time and all of this effort and all of this money into different concepts and different shows and different series and different industries and different projects that are fruitless. It's costing Rooster Teeth in the long run. Audience members or people that are supporting the company are leaving because they feel alienated, and they have been. Because they're no longer what Rooster Teeth really cares for. Rooster Teeth is aiming to reach into a market that it just can't get into. They could, but they're not self-aware enough to do so. And self-awareness is not something you can change overnight. It's like confidence. It's a concept, not something teachable. It's not something learnable. It's just something that needs to be cultivated over a select amount of time. Some faster than others, some slower than others. But for Rooster Teeth, they don't care for the self-awareness. They want the audience now, but they have no way to keep them in. And they're alienating fans in the long run. And that is the big problem. It's not like the naysayers are actively trying to dissuade the company or talk about how Rooster Teeth is closing down. I love Rooster Teeth. And I feel like that statement was about people like me. it's not that they're naysayers. The majority of the people talking down on Rooster Teeth, talking about how this is the end of Rooster Teeth, are not enemies. They are fans that Rooster Teeth has actively told to fuck off by just reaching and reaching and reaching for absolutely nothing in reach. Those people on Reddit talking about how Rooster Teeth is not being transparent and they're not giving anything worth anything at all. It's not because they hate Rooster Teeth. It's because Rooster Teeth seemingly hates them at this point. It's like the other way around. I guess Rooster Teeth perceives it to be they hate Rooster Teeth, but well, maybe they should, these naysayers that Rooster Teeth kind of proclaims, should start looking at, well, Rooster Teeth just hates us. Is that the case? No, but neither is the idea that we're haters, or we are actively trying to batten down the hatches of Rooster Teeth and close them off. But what do you expect? Rooster Teeth wants you to trust them. Rooster Teeth wants you to have faith in them. Guess what? You can't! And that's alright! They're breaking promises. They're being hypocritical. They're alienating audiences and throwing away fans just to reach for scraps. Scraps that they can't even hold on to because their hands are already too full trying to figure out what the fuck to do next. This dance into merchandise that, and truth be told, this new line of clothing, some of it looks alright, but most of it wouldn't even get the goddamn feature rack at TJ Maxx. This merchandise thing ain't gonna fucking work out. Rooster Teeth isn't gonna become a luxury brand, alright? And the fact that you named it Rooster Teeth, though I love the fucking name because it's a synonym for cockbite, Rooster Teeth is not a fucking pleasing name, and everyone within Rooster Teeth knows that. But Rooster Teeth is not going to be a luxury brand. It's not going to be a headliner at TJ Maxx or fucking JC Penney or Sears or Marshalls or whatever fucking department store you can think of. It's not gonna be anything special. Alright, the makers of People Like Grapes will not end up being the front fucking page of Fashion Weekly or whatever the fucking magazine is. Alright, it's gonna be another fruitless effort. The same way these big series, these big costly series, these big costly genre-specific series are not worth the time. Because there's nothing you're getting in return. Sure, the merchandise sales can be there, but where is the long-term brand identity? It's not there. You don't have anything for a new audience to come in and latch on to. The only thing you have is name brand recognition to the audience that you have. AKA the audience you're alienating. I don't know how much more specific I or anyone else can be. You can't be trusted because you're not an entity of your word. You're going back on promises. You're being hypocritical. You're making poor business decisions, and now it starts to seem like you're attributing some of that failure on us. I'm not a voice of the voiceless, but for fucking hell, is my microphone loud right now? You can't expect to find success without planning. You got your success from capitalizing on a trend that found you an audience you didn't have before. Where is that self-awareness now? Where the fuck is it? Because you got your success, massive success, found yourself an audience that you didn't necessarily have before, and you capitalized on it by making it an entire subgenre of your company. Achievement Hunter, a video game-based channel, a video game-based entity, was really born and bred in an era in which online media was focused on gameplay. You saw a trend and you jumped on it. And now you're not doing that. And you're not seeing a trend. And instead, you're just trying to throw your name out there and hope it's like a cupcake against a fucking wall and sticks. It ain't. It ain't gonna stick. You don't got frosting on it. You're just throwing shit at the wall and watching it drop to the ground. This merchandise line will not pay off. There will be no long-term direction for Rooster Teeth from these fucking TJ Maxx bottom-feeding shirts. I think some of them are cool, don't get me wrong. But if somebody were to see that in TJ Maxx, they'd pick a blank fucking gray shirt with a T on it before they picked yours. You're not going to break into the fashion industry. You're not going to break into the production industry by just throwing out one thing and then not following up on it. Do you know how fucking easy it is to get that? Don't put out a product you hope to be a land shaker, a sort of tsunami or an earthquake. A start of a long string of good fortune for your company. Don't start thinking something is going to be that landmark shift without having anything else for that fucking eruption to really touch upon. You know that there's a fucking saying or something along those lines. It's like a raindrop in the ocean. A good company or something like that. A good company knows how to make a raindrop add to the water level of the ocean. Because that raindrop is a show. Or that raindrop is a product that new audiences will see, dig deeper, and find all the rest of the water in the ocean. To be able to choose from this and that and that and that because it touches on their taste. Well, if that's the case, and a good landmark shift is like a water droplet going into the ocean, then Rooster Teeth is having their landmark shift be a water drop going into a fucking deserted canyon. I don't like seeing that, and I don't like saying this, because it makes me feel horrendous. But it's the truth. It's the case. Rooster Teeth is not getting the hint, and they refuse to see anything other than what they want. This is what we want to do. Well, you got nothing to back off for it. If I was just some random person seeing Day 5, caught up on the series, I wouldn't go to RT first and go, this looks good, and this looks good, and this looks good. I'd go, oh, none of this is worth my time. Same thing happens over and over again. I'm not saying go back to what you used to do. Don't get me wrong. That's the exact opposite to do. But for crying out loud, if any audience was gained by Day 5, or Genlock, or whatever it may be, make something in the same sort of genre as Day 5. Same sort of genre as Genlock. Something that people don't need to have 10 years of knowledge to dig into. Doesn't seem like much, but I know it is. There's probably been 45 minutes of me talking out of my ass, but hell, my Rooster Teeth videos have gotten some nice views. Maybe that'll... fuck it, I'm not even going to talk about views. You get the point. I'm ready for commercial. Alright, Hardy Complex back in 15.